So students, we are beginning with yet another webinar and on behalf of Mechanical Engineering Department, LBS College of Engineering, Kasaragod. So the main aim for conducting these seminars or webinars is to give you some aware about the different opportunities after completing your BTech. So in the present scenario, if you're considering there is a problem in the students approach that after completing their BTech, they are not efficient to or they are not uh, competent to work in an industrial arena. There are many other factors which make them fail when they are reaching or getting an employment. It's begin from their curriculums and uh, the exposure they are provided, and there are all factors rely upon it. So through this webinar, uh, we are giving some exposure, giving you some aware about how to tackle this problem and to get a new job and how to make it as a what we benefit for you. So let me welcome our chief guest, Mr. Shekhar Menon sir, uh, to conduct this webinar. Sir.
Thank you, Udit. Let me just switch on my camera so that you can see me. Udit, thank you so much. Students, good morning. I believe a lot of rain in Kerala, which is also kind of causing a bit of a problem.
Yes, there is a network connection issues in the regions. So
Yeah.
Students are not able to join in better manner.
Yeah. I understand.
Sorry for the inconvenience, sir.
Yeah, but I still have to say sorry to people who have joined at 11 o'clock who had to wait for about 15 minutes. I mean, I think some of you have made up from my name. I am also from your state. I'm also from Kerala. I've been living in Bangalore for about 26 years now. So very happy to address students from my home state. This is probably the fourth college that I'm addressing through webinar for the first time, but otherwise I have spoken to many colleges physically before the lockdown. Even before, I mean, I'm talking about 2-3 years ago, because this has been going through my head for last 3-4 years, this particular problem. So as Udit identified, our aim is to help you understand what are some of the problems all of you face. When I say all of you, when you come out of your college in terms of employment, all of us are equally concerned or focused. I don't want to say concerned, focused on employment. So idea is to there are two parts. I want to talk about the issue, the problem, because knowing the problem is very important. Knowing the problem is important for you to take an action to solve it, right? I'm just giving a small example. We know we are all stuck with COVID today. There is nothing that we can do. So knowing that we have COVID and we got to be careful is very important. Once you know that, all of us will take certain action, corrective action, to make sure that we are not impacted by COVID, right? So let me start with that. I'm just going to share my screen. Udit, if you can just confirm that you're able to screen once I do that.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So I just want to start off with, I mean, this is a major coincidence. This is an article I read today morning. You can see the time slot on my right side corner, right? It is basically a screenshot of my email. Something which came to me at 9:30 in the morning as an email. This is an Economic Times news update that I get every day. Can you see that news? I just highlighted it. It says the skill gap in India is alarming. So today our focus is talking about skill gap and what all of us should do, all of you should do to take care of the skill gap. The details you can read. Basically, 12% of the graduates, working age population in the country, their unemployment rate is double the average rate, all of that. So basically the point is, I think what all of you should know is, it is basically an issue of skill gap, basically an issue of lack of industry orientation. So I thought I'll just start off with this, because this is something I read today morning, bit of a coincidence. I'm reading this maybe 1.5, 2 hours before my session with you all. Let me talk about one experience which basically made me do this. I've been working in the corporate sector for about I work for about 29 years. Like all of you came out of engineering, worked in some of the petrochemical and atomic power plant before I moved to a completely different area, which was telecommunication and software. Then now I'm here, part of an educational technology startup. So I just want to talk about this experience for the reason that this is what gave me a root shock back in 2015, which made me think in terms of adversity and the skill set issues. And which is why I decided to talk to all of you through webinar. I've been addressing many colleges. Idea is to help you all understand the problem that we are talking about so that all of you know that there exists a problem and we need to take a corrective action. So this is an incident where our organization, the organization that I was part of earlier, we were trying to recruit some 15 software engineers trainee out of campus, right? Not through a campus interview, outside the campus, as we call it, off campus. We got about 1,000 candidates coming for the recruitment. We were very happy. We got 1,000 candidates. I know all of these candidates having good mark, good academic record and all of that. We said we will definitely get 15, 20 people. It's not a big deal. But the entire process, the outcome of the entire process was so disappointing. Would you believe that if I say that after the first round, only 50 people could make, or less than 50 people make it to the second round? And after the third round, after the second round, the final round, we had only 4 people, not even 5. So this is an incident which basically got me thinking. And I keep saying that this gave me a root shock that there is something fundamentally wrong about it. Right? Then I started looking at various reports. Whatever is coming in the there are a lot of people conduct researches, surveys, and all of that. I started reading a report. I just presented one report here. I mean, before that, let me talk about the friends discussion. So this is when I started talking about this particular problem. I started interacting with many of my friends because I thought this could be a problem only with IT industry, information technology industry. Then I spoke to somebody who's been working then in L&T, Larsen & Toubro, which is a engineering organization. And I think as mechanical engineers, all of you would dream to be part of L&T, which is a great organization. So he was saying when he interviewed a particular batch of students, he was talking about one particular incident where he was interviewing a candidate who was handling interview very well. He's been answering all the questions, very smart student, all of this happened. Towards the end of the discussion, my friend asked the candidate, what's your favorite subject? And it seems the candidate responded that welding technology is my favorite. Then they started discussing about welding technology. After 3-4 questions, my friend realized that this candidate is answering all the questions in a theoretical manner, in a textbook manner. So my friend asked him, have you ever seen an industry welding? And it seems, surprisingly, the answer was no. That is why he was able to give all the theoretical aspects of welding there in your textbook, but then he was not able to give the interviewer a practical aspect of welding. A similar incident shared by some of my other friends who worked in airline industry. They were talking about aeronautical engineers who have learned about aircraft parts and all of that. But when these people were asked a question, when does the flap of an aircraft open up completely? Does it open up completely during landing or takeoff? It seems many students who have done well in academics could not answer. Right? So these are some of the triggers. Then I started looking at some of the reports. And this is again an IT specific report where the report says 94% engineering graduates are not fit for hire. I just want to remind you, I'm not giving you all of this figure to scare you because you're all doing engineering or you just completed engineering. Idea is not to scare you. Idea is to tell you what the reality of life is. Because when you know what is the reality, you will be able to take some corrective action. Okay. This report had a lot of discussion. There were many people who said this report is incorrect. Many people said this report is correct. So what I've highlighted in red is basically the response from one of the managing director of CEO and managing director of one of the companies in Bangalore called Tech Mahindra. I mean, it's a Pune-based company. They have operations all over India and globally. It was his view where he said this particular report, is correct. It is indeed correct, right? Then I thought, okay, this is all confusing. I wanted to go to AICTE data. I'm sure all of you know AICTE governs all the engineering colleges in India, All India Council of Technical Education. I went to look at AICTE data, thinking that that will be reliable because AICTE will not give you any incorrect data. Right? They have complete information with them. So as per AICTE data, we had a problem. If you look at 2014, AICTE was saying, AICTE is saying, 2014, that employable talent. I hope you understand what I mean by employable talent. Talent are people like you. You come out of your engineering college, or somebody come out of a management college, somebody comes out of a medical college, somebody comes out of a science or arts college. Those are the talents, right? You develop talent through your program. And this is the employable talent. So out of that, what percentage are employable? As you can see, in 2015, it was only about 34%. Things have improved, gone up to 47.3%. This is all streams, engineers, non-engineers, and all that. If you look at engineers, again, just focus on this red circle that you see here. It was 50% in 2017. Right? And it came up to 57 in 2019, which is a good news. But even if you say 57%, I don't know how many of you know this. Every year, India produces close to 10 lakhs engineering graduates from various colleges of India. 10 lakh, 9 to 10 lakh. So if you say 43% of, even if I take 9 lakhs, you're talking about 4 lakh students every year not being employed. And I want to repeat this point. I want to repeat it, reiterate. This is not because these students are not good. This is primarily because, one, whatever focus that you have in engineering college, the focus is largely on theoretical aspect, because that's the way it should be. Correct? Because engineering, your whole idea is to have a good foundation of theoretical aspects of whatever engineering branch that you're doing. As mechanical engineers, you all should be, building a good foundation of mechanical engineering theory. That is very, very important. So that is a focus, and that is where all your faculties, your lecturers, your professors, your instructors, your HODs focus on. But when you go to the industry, what industry needs is industry relevant knowledge. So Udit mentioned that in the introduction. What you need is, we call it skill. You need to know whatever that you learned in your engineering. You should know how to apply that in industry. For example, you might learn strength of material as a subject. So you should know, okay, I learned strength of material. How am I going to use this in my real life situation? If I go to an oil and gas industry, how am I going to use it? If I go to a petrochemical industry, how am I going to use it? If I join Tata Motors tomorrow, how am I going to use this? So that is what one means by application knowledge. So today the problem is our curriculum. This is an all India problem, right? This is not a problem of one college or one state. Our all India problem is our curriculum is not updated with technology or industry updates. I was attending a panel discussion 2 days ago where vice chancellors and directors of 4 university colleges were part of. They were also agreeing to this. They said, look, our focus is giving a strong foundation of theory. And we do that, we focus on that. And they're right. And the industry relevant knowledge is not currently something which is part of the education system. Right? Now, faculties are so busy with their own teaching activity, they rarely find time. They rarely find time to go to an industry and spend some time and experience the industry. Correct? They can't take a 1 year or 2 years break and go and work there, because our current systems does not support that. But if you go to some of the foreign countries, in some of the European countries, they follow something called a dual education system, where they teach you the theoretical aspects as well as the practical aspects. So they split time between theoretical aspects and taking people to the industry and do that. Unfortunately, in India, we don't do that. So all the problem that we spoke about, in terms of employability is not because, students who are coming out of engineering colleges not good. They're definitely great. They are smart in their own way. And I keep saying, I came out of my college 32 years ago, to be precise, 33. I keep saying probably current students are much, much smarter than what we were. Because for you, access to information is very easy. During our days, we had to go to a library or pick up a book or read something, and whatever is there in the book, you can make use of that. But today for you, it is just a matter of typing www and whatever site or google.com search, you get all the information. So you have access to information. So you all are making use of that. But what you need for this particular journey from university to industry, you need to have industry relevant knowledge. Correct? Now, this is about the real situation, right? This is the situation that continues to be there for so many years. Now, unfortunately, all of us, and this is a global scenario, not just India, all of us globally are hit with this COVID-19 situation. What happened because of that? It added to the problem. But when you look at the problem, you will realize something. Let's talk about the problem and the positive side. When you talk about the problem, some industries are impacted. I think some of you would already know that if you look at aviation industry is impacted because even today, most of the airlines in India are flying only at 30% or 40% of their capacity. They are not flying all their aircraft. And even those aircraft which are flying are not going full. So there is an impact. If you look at hospitality industry, resorts and hotels or picnic spots, they are all impacted because nobody wants to go and stay in hotels. And all of this could also result in, they will slow down the recruitment. They might reduce the salary for some time. But let me tell you, as a person who have experienced the industry live, there are 2 or 3 things I want to remember. First of all, this is a very temporary situation. Whatever situation that we are going through, it is not a permanent situation. It is just a matter of 3 or 4 or 6 months by the time we come back to normalcy. If you look at one indication I can give you is, if you look at stock market. Okay, I've been watching stock market. Now, stock market is gaining momentum. Stock market gaining momentum is an indication. I would say that's the only indication. That's one of the indications of how things are improving. And you generally look around, generally all the industry, today or yesterday, I was just reading the newspaper. HP, the computer manufacturer HP, they have opened up 2 plants where they were assembling and setting up desktops and laptops. So all of this will come back. And when the business come back, all of these industry, whether aviation industry or hospitality industry, will come back. It is just a matter of time. And I'm sure most of you have heard about our Prime Minister's self-reliance, Atmanirbharta mission of India. What does that mean? It basically means that we will have to produce more. We need to be self-sufficient. We should reduce the dependency on other countries, correct? That means we are going to have more and more manufacturing or plant activities happening in India. I just put up this little picture here of our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. There was an announcement which happened back in June, 16th of May, where she announced that they are focused on developing India as a MRO hub. MRO stands for Maintenance and Repair Organization. And for your benefit, MRO is nothing but service organization which service aircraft. Like you take your car or bike to a center, aircrafts are serviced in MROs. So India is trying to develop as a MRO hub because we have the technological advantage, we have skilled people, and we also have the cost advantage. And as freshers who are coming out of engineering college, I want you to know that because I've been on the other side of the table of recruiting people. Whenever the business is not doing well, or people have to cut down on staff and all of that, we normally do that at the senior level or the middle level. The entry level recruitment normally goes on because unless and until they are going to stop the business, they need people. And they normally, every company, what they do is they recruit people at the lower level and build them up, right? As the business goes up, they will build people, bring them up. So even if slowdown happens, believe me, recruitment at the entry level will not be stopped. It might come down a little bit, but it will not be stopped. But in difficult times, what will happen is people who are recruiting, they are going to be stricter than what they were earlier. What I mean by stricter, they would look for people who have the real skill. So earlier, if they were talking, looking at, selection bar at this level, they will raise the selection bar. They will just raise it a bit to make sure that they get good quality people. Now, with all of these, what is that you have to do? Right? All of this happening. So you must be sitting and wondering, what do I do now? So first of all, I repeat, whatever problem statement that I have presented to you, it is not to scare you. I gave you that a problem statement because all of us should know what the reality is. You cannot run away from reality, right? You cannot run away from COVID. You can only manage. You can only stay safe. You cannot run away from industry-related problem. You can only see what is that you can do to get over that. So if you're thinking, okay, I mean the industry is not doing well, recruitment is slowing down, salary levels are coming down. There could be 15 problems coming into your, in your brain, to your brain. What you need to do is you need to think about, okay, these are all things which are outside of my control. Don't worry about things which you cannot control. Think about or worry about things that you can control. What is that? When you are going down, you have to make sure that you are better than the rest. I've just borrowed this wording from somebody. It says, when the going gets tough, the tough reinvent. I hope all of you are very clear about the word reinvent. So you need to think, okay, what is that I'm going to do differently? Maybe until last year, all my seniors, all my classmates, they have been just doing certain things. But in the current situation, that same thing is not good enough. In the current situation, you have to do something different. Think about what is that different. You know what is the different? You make yourself better. You make yourself better than the rest. So when 10 people go for an interview, each one of you should be thinking, I want to be the best of the 10. Each one of you should be thinking, because that is going to be a competition. It is not meant for one person. It is meant for all of you. Say that I want to be the best, so that even if there is only one opportunity, I get it. I become the first. So all of you need to focus on that. And that essentially means you need to build your skill. That is what is going to take you there. Believe me, your engineering knowledge, your engineering marks are very, very important, no doubt. I want you to focus on that for sure. I want you to pay close attention to that, because you came in and joined for an engineering program for a reason. Focus on that. While you do that, you build your skills, whatever skills that you need or whatever skills the industry need for you to be part of the industry. So tomorrow, if any one of you are planning to join aviation industry, understand what the skills required for an aviation industry and develop those skills. If you want to become an automobile, understand the skills required for automobile industry, develop those skills. So it is for you to decide what is that you want to do. But when you decide, make sure that you are doing it. So while I was just waiting for all of you to join, I was just talking to Udit. I happened to listen to one of your webinars, I think about 3 weeks ago, where one of your old students, I think his name is Mohammed Rafi, he came and did a session for you all, I think mechanical engineers, about what are the things that you should know about oil and gas industry. I think he works for one of those companies in oil and gas field. So he was, explaining to you as to what are the things that you should know. That is what the skilling that one is talking about. So I think he gave you a session. I could only attend this for about 15 minutes. I think he gave you a session as to what are the skills that you should develop to be ready for an oil and gas industry. Similarly, every industry needs certain skills. What you need to do, not just sit back at home and worry about this COVID and related issue. What you need to do is you need to understand, identify what you need to do and skill yourself. When I say skill, don't get lost with the words. I'm basically about 3 things. There are multiple things, but then what you need to focus on only is 3 things. Application knowledge. I hope you understood what I meant by application knowledge. Application knowledge is about, understanding the theoretical aspects and knowing how do you apply this in the real life. I gave you the examples, just this one more example. When you learn about strength of material, understand how do I make use of it when I start working. When you learn about welding, understand, okay, I understand basics of welding. Now the need is for me to understand how does it happen in the real life situation, so that you do not go through the situation that I've explained earlier, where your knowledge is limited to theoretical knowledge. So application aspects, once you start learning application aspects, you will automatically oriented with the industry needs. You will get an industry relevant understanding. And the third thing, very, very important, while the technical knowledge and the industry related knowledge are very important, you also need to build your soft skills. On soft skills, there are many things, but here I'm just focusing on two important aspects. One is your communication ability. The second is your presentation ability. What is the difference between these two? Very small difference. Communication, let us say any one of you are sitting in front of somebody else and talking, your ability to talk, like a general conversation, and your ability to speak properly, drive the important points, stay to the point and all of that. Now, presentation could be slightly different, where you're standing and how you do for your seminar, right? Your project seminar, you stand in front of your classmates and your batchmates and your faculties and you do a presentation. How well you present. Here, I'm not only talking about the communication, the language, English language, I'm also talking about how do you present yourself? How do you drive the point? How well you speak? How do you stick to the point? And how do you organize yourself? Because these are important. Otherwise, what can happen is, tomorrow, let's understand that you have done an industry related training. You have done your skill, and you go for an interview. If you are not able to speak properly, if you're not able to present your points properly, the person sitting on the other side will not know what you know. So you will not be able to communicate clearly. You will not be able to, convey that you understand. So I just want to take a small pause here and say, my sincere recommendation, my sincere suggestion for you is, when you look for employability, industry is looking for people with skill. So your engineering theoretical knowledge is important, but then you have to build skill over that, which has to be industry related. And you also should be building your communication and presentation skills. And because of the temporary situation that we are all going through, the COVID situation, the lockdown situation, or maybe in Kerala, the rain situation, don't think that is going to the end of the world. It is not. It is just a temporary situation. If you do not make good use of your time now, in whatever that you want to do, if you do not make good use of your time, let us say 3 months or 4 months or 6 months later, when you have an opportunity, at that point in time, if you're not able to do well, you would have lost 6 months of your time, which is not good for any one of us. So that's the reason I'm saying, don't feel sad or bad about the current situation. Accept it, understand what you need to do, move forward. And this is where we will also help you in case you need our help. We basically enhance the employability of youngsters by bridging the gap. So I'm just going back to my earlier example. When I experienced that problem that I have explained to you all, of 1,000 students coming in and not even 4 people making to the final list, I felt this is a major social problem. Because when all of the students are smart, all of the students are good, if there are some missing links, which is basically coming in the way of their getting a job, something should be done about it. And we knew that only people from the industry can do that. So what we do, we basically help you through industry relevant training program and soft skill training. So those of you are interested in doing this, those of you are interested in making use of the time, I recommend that all of you do something about it. That's a strong recommendation. But those of you are interested in this, we are there to help you out. Now, just to talk about our industry veteran, because like I told you, this can be done only by people from the industry. Because the industry relevant knowledge comes through experience. So you need to have people from the industry who have experiences who should be able to train you on that. So from our point of view, I just want to put it up here to tell you how we do it. If you look at the people here, except Sumant, who's on the right extreme, he's also on the call today. All of these people have 30, 40 years of experience. These 3 people are aviation experts. Man has 31 years of experience. He's a German citizen who worked in airline industry, who currently runs an aviation training center. These two gentlemen, 40 plus years of experience. So even after retirement, they continued working in aviation industry. This gentleman is an oil and gas industry specialist who worked about 36 years in oil and gas industry. Of 36 years, he ran training institute for about 18 years. And Sumant has about 14 years of experience in aviation who's working. So the reason I just put it up here is not to, do a sale of Edgevacity, but to tell you how you can solve this problem. So whenever you think of skilling, you should remember that such skilling can be only done people who have experienced this from the industry. Today, the reason I'm talking to you about it confidently, because I've experienced it. I have seen this problem. I have lived this problem. I have understood this problem. So only people who can understand the problem can help you solve the problem. Now, one of the questions you might all be, wondering about or thinking about is, okay, we will do all of that. What are the job opportunities? Do we have enough job opportunities? The very simple answer is yes. I just put up this graph. Just look at those little black arrows where I'm pointing out. I just want to just touch upon that point. As you all know, India is a large exporter of human resources to various parts of the globe. I think you all know that, because whichever part of the globe you go to, whichever country you go to, you can see Indians all over. Correct? So between 1990 and 2010, about 12% of the global resources are supplied by India. And this survey says, and this is a survey conducted by McKinsey, and McKinsey is one of the leading consulting organizations in the globe. And McKinsey says it is going to be 27%. So it's going to be more than double between 2010 and 2030. And we are already halfway through the 20-year period. We are in 2020 now. So India is going to contribute to 27% of 325 million, estimated to be 325 million global pool of resources, which are, the engineers and the supervisory levels. So the opportunities exist. All that you need to do is make sure that you don't lose time, and you basically make sure that you are skilling yourself to grab this opportunity. Otherwise, you might be left behind. So it is just for you to do that. There is nothing that you need to feel sad or bad about. Just make sure that you understand what you need to do and you do. Just to give you an idea, because when I talk about all of this, you might have a doubt, okay, what are the job opportunities? I just picked up only 2 industries here as an example. It is not to give you a complete, just an example, just to give you a view. If you look at job opportunities in aviation industry, I'm just talking in airline engineering department, okay, just for as an example. If you look at an airline, whether it's Indigo, SpiceJet, Vistara, Go Air, whatever, all these posts, all these functions are handled by engineers. All of these, right? So you can be a licensed maintenance engineer, for which you need license. You'll have to go through certain tests, 7 or 8 tests, and get licensed. But other than that, you have all of these positions available. And in addition to this, there are companies like MRO, which I have told you, they also recruit similar people. And there are companies in the aviation infotech field. They provide software solution for the aviation industry. They also recruit people with aviation background. When I say aviation background, I do not mean only aeronautical engineers, because the aviation industry now recruit people from aeronautical engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, electronics and communication engineering, instrumentation engineering, even computer science, because data analytics has become a big thing in aviation today. For data analytics, they normally prefer computer science graduates, because you need to write programs to make this data meaningful. So today, if you look at aviation industry needs people from various branches of engineering. I just gave you one other example of oil and gas industry. Before I talk about oil and gas industry details, just look at this little paper cutting that I put up here. I just put it up here, and this is a news which came 5 days ago in Hindu. Indian Oil Corporation, IOC, I'm just reading it out for you. Indian Oil Corporation said its board has approved the implementation of an integrated paraxylene and purified terephthalic acid PTA plant in Orissa at an investment of 13,800 crore. What does that mean? It is going to be a new plant. It is going to create so many new job opportunities. Correct? And this is just one news. And I'm talking about an incident which happened now. I'm not talking about an incident which happened 5 years ago. right? So opportunities are coming. I mean, it is not end of the world. Corona has not brought everything down. The opportunities exist. So if you look at oil and gas industry, you have opportunities in contracting companies. I'm referring to contracting companies like Larsen and Toubro, Petron, Punch Lloyd, many other large companies. There are subcontracting companies. I don't know how many of you know this. These companies like Larsen & Toubro, Petron, and all that, they take the entire contract and they subcontract to various people. They do the overall project management, they subcontract it. So there are small and mid-sized companies, and I'm sure there could be many in Mangalore, for example. And there are many in Chennai, there are many in Bangalore, there are many in Bombay, there are many in Delhi, there are many in Pune. So these subcontracting companies also need people with this kind of background. I'm largely focusing here on mechanical engineers because, I'm talking to most of the mechanical engineers today. Now, if IOC is setting up a refinery, IOC need people. IOC's contracting companies would need people. IOC's consulting companies would need people. There are consulting companies. My first job was in a consulting company where we go to site and work as consulting engineers, right? So they need people. Look at these plants. I mean, tomorrow if Adani comes and says Adani is going to set up whatever plant, whether it's a petrochemical plant or a chemical plant, they need people. Or SR is going to set up something, or Reliance is going to set up something. All of this need people. Now, petroleum as an industry, as you all know, we all continue to consume petroleum. Today, we all keep hearing from Gulf countries that petroleum prices have come down, because of which there is a bit of an economy slump. But look at India. We continue to pay 80 or 83 rupees for petrol. And we continue to consume. I don't think the consumption has come down. So the petroleum product consumption would continue to be there. And I personally do not see a major problem in the industry. So there are opportunities. I just picked up this as an example because you might have this question when you talk about skilling. End of the day, you are skilling to be employed. And when I'm talking about skilling to be employed, you should know what are the employment opportunities. I just picked up these two as examples. That's all I had to say. I'm more than happy to answer any of the questions that you want to ask me.
Sir, a few questions have been asked by our students. So I think you will answer to it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So the first question is that after the post-COVID-19 situations, what will be the chance for foreign jobs related to the foreign jobs, especially the past 2 days we have seen a news that America is canceling the H-1B visas for the skilled laborers. So related to that, what will be the trend on the job in the foreign countries?
Yeah. So I think that's a good question. I think everybody is thinking about it. There is going to be a bit of a reduction, to be honest. Whether it's America, Europe, or Gulf countries. I mean, Europe not so much. I'll tell you, some of the opportunities coming up in Europe, in Gulf countries and North America, especially United States, because of the H-1B1 visa, there is going to be a bit of a slowdown. But having worked in IT field, let me talk about the US part first. Having worked in IT field, let me tell you, I don't think it is going to be a huge impact. I'll tell you why. If America could handle all of this by themselves, many of our large reputed organizations like Infosys or Wipro or TCS would not have made it so big in the US. And I'm sure in WhatsApp group, you keep saying some message, I think I would have seen that 15 times, right? Which make all of us Indians proud that many large companies in US, US based large companies, multinational companies based headquartered in US are led by Indians. Now, there could be a small reduction because H-1B1 visa, because the current president of the United States, he had to show that, this H-1B visa or Indians or expatriates going there is not going to impact their, local American job. But the fact that, having worked, I think you in your introduction, you said I had an opportunity to work in the global business management. Let me tell you, and I take pride in saying this, we Indians have a very special skill of handling multiple things at the same time. We call it multitasking. many of the foreigners, many of the smart Europeans and Americans that I've dealt with, I'm not blaming them, I'm not putting them down. They will do certain things very well. They probably do it much better than we do. They do it very systematically. They don't need supervision, all of that. But one of the advantages we have is we can handle multiple things, multitasking, or we are willing to try out things. These are great qualities. We are okay to try out things even if it is not working, if it is not going to work. So I think it's going to be temporary. And when it comes to Gulf, I think as mechanical engineers, I'm assuming that most of the people are from mechanical or related branch. As mechanical engineer, probably your focus would be non-IT. And when it comes to non-IT, maybe your thought process would be more about the Gulf countries and Europe. In Gulf countries, in all of the Gulf countries, there is a strong localization drive happening as we speak. But there again, this is based on my interaction with many of my friends. Being a Malayali, I have many of my friends who live in various Gulf countries. What I understand is the localization is not going to be that practical for every field. So from an engineering perspective, for a technology perspective, I don't think it is going to be a huge impact. There'll be a small impact. And both this impact would be compensated by newer opportunities in India. So that's the reason we talked about the IOC planning to set up a plant, or the Atmanirbhar or the self-reliance mission of India, the India government taking a focus on MRO. There are going to be opportunities in India. It is just about how we make sure that we are ready for those opportunities. And Europe, let me talk about Europe. In fact, if you go through our website, you will see that we have tied up with a company called ATCC. ATCC is a European approved training organization, the aviation training. So all our aviation program certification will be done by ATCC. We are having a discussion where ATCC told us German aviation industry is happy to look at engineers from India who are talented and skilled. So they were saying, ATCC was saying, this is one other company which is known to ATCC. They were saying, as and when we have our first batch of students going out, they said, if you are able to make sure that people are skilled enough, good enough, there could be opportunities in Europe in the aviation industry. And I don't know how many of you know this. There are many people, especially after mechanical engineering and core engineering subject, go to a country like Germany to do higher studies and work. I personally do not think there is going to be a huge issue there, because at least there are 5 people that I know who work in Germany, who did their engineering here, went on to do their masters in Germany, continued working there. Because Germany is looking for people again who have the mix of techno management, right? Because Germany is a lot of technical people, very strong technical people, but they see Indians are more of a techno managerial skill people. They are looking at that. So my understanding, Europe will open up some opportunities. But of course, this COVID travel restriction is a thing. Post-COVID, I'm talking about post-COVID. So the impact is not going to be very big. There'll be slight impact, which is again temporary. And tomorrow, I can guarantee you that, I don't want to guarantee that because it's the country's decision. This H-1B visa restriction, I will not be surprised if I see a relaxation on this, 3 or 5 months or 6 months down the line. I don't want to guarantee that, but then that's my gut feel.
Thank you, sir, for your information. Sir, there is another question that, do Edgeversity provide placement, from Suhail P?
Yeah. So very, very good question. We keep getting this question from all the students who talk to us. We don't guarantee placement because nobody can guarantee you placement. I want you to understand that. But we definitely work with industry to assist our students in getting placed. What I mean by that is, because I think I mentioned this in the beginning of the conversation, this problem that we spoke about in last 40 minutes or 45 minutes is not a problem only faced by people like you. It is also a problem faced by industry. That's the reason I told you about my experience, because when I experienced this particular problem, it is because of that problem I decided to do something in these lines. So today industry is spending a lot of time in their recruitment process and after recruitment in the training process to get the right set of people. So when we are able to produce good quality, good skilled engineers, industry would be very happy. And I have done it. When I had this particular incident of 1,000 people coming and not getting 4 people, what happened was 15 days or 20 days later, an organization like Edgeversity, they were doing some training program in software, development and testing. They came to me. I don't know how they got to know this, or it's a coincidence. They came to me and asked me, "Are you okay to try some of our students?" I said, "Why not?" Because I didn't have to pay any money for them. They came, talked to me. I said, "Okay." I took their biodata, gave it to my team who were recruiting. You will be surprised. We got 15 or 18, I can't remember exactly, but not more than 20 resumes. Out of that, we could get about 8 or 9 people. That is because they were all good. And what I did after that, you wouldn't believe this. What I did after that is I took this company and I introduced this company to 4 colleges in Kerala, in my hometown, in Palakkad. Not as a business. I felt this company can definitely improve the skill set of people. Of course, that's only software training company. So I introduced this to 4 colleges in Kerala who had computer science as a branch. So we definitely, to give you a short answer, Suhail, we definitely work with the industry to help our students to get placed, but we cannot guarantee for 2 reasons. Number one, the job opportunities in various companies are very dynamic. For example, tomorrow in my company, in Edgeocity, we may have to recruit 2 people, right? That I will know only today that, okay, next 1 month I need 2 people. What will happen? How many people would I need after December? I will have an idea, but then I will not announce it, right? I will only keep it to myself. That is part of my plan. I will announce it only when it gets closer. And number 2, as I indicated, let us assume that there are 10 people from the same college, same branch going for an interview, and there are 4 positions. What will happen? The best 4 will get the job. Let us assume that all 10 students have gone through the Edgeocity program, right? But the company needs only 4 people. Company will pick up the 4 best people out of the 10. Now, if you were to guarantee job opportunities all the 10, we will be lying to the other 6 who couldn't get. So to that extent, we help students in the whole placement service, because it is for us also to make sure that our students, when they spend money to come and do a course like this, they are successful. Because if you remember my earlier statement, our motto or our objective is to enhance the employability of youngsters of India. Enhancing the employability means they have to be employable. So to that extent, we will work with students to help them in getting placed. Hope it answers this question.
Okay, sir. So the next question is from Vishnu Ike. He asked that after the post-COVID situation, in which area of engineering there will be have more job opportunities?
I personally do not think. Okay, I know. Let me also tell you something which I heard from one other set of people, which I do not agree with, because I do not think this COVID situation has made any change in the industry needs. It is same. A refinery will continue to produce, refine crude oil and produce petroleum product. An automotive company will continue to manufacture cars or trucks or thing. Bottling plant will continue to manufacture bottle. Things hasn't changed. Things are changing from a slightly different perspective, not because of the COVID perspective. So the short answer for that question from Vishnu is, I do not think the things have changed at all. So things remain the same as what it was earlier. The opportunities of a mechanical engineer remain the same, civil engineers remain the same, all of this remains same. Now, if I have to answer this, are mechanical engineers better placed than civil engineers, or electronics engineers better placed than mechanical engineers? It's a very difficult question to answer, because it purely depends on which industry you look at. As an example, if you go to an oil and gas industry, if you go to, IOC, I'm going back to the same IOC example. Now, when IOC sets up this plant, they would need engineers from mechanical engineers, civil engineering background, electrical engineering background, instrumentation engineering background, and electronics engineering background, all the 5 branches. But if you look at the combination, they would probably have more of mechanical and civil engineers than electrical and instrumentation engineers. Now, on the other side, if you go to the company that I work with, between 92 and 96, I used to work for a company which was into instrumentation business only. Most of us, barring a very few of my friends who were my batchmate, barring a very few people, most of us were from an instrumentation background. There are very few people from mechanical and electronics background. Most of us were from instrumentation background. So it's very, very specific industry. Now, real estate business. If you take real estate business, in real estate business, who do you need? You need more of civil engineers, then mechanical engineers, then probably electrical engineers. Real estate business will come back. It is just a matter of time. There is a fear that people will not continue to stay in big cities like Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai, and all of that. I don't think that's going to be the reality. People will continue to be there. They continue to be there for various other reasons, not because their office was in Bombay or Pune. And that does not change. So I do not think the COVID situation would change the complete thing. But the way things are being done have been changing over a period of time. There is a lot of fear happening. The automation will take away jobs. Automation will not take away jobs. Automation will change the way you do job, right? So what you need to do is you need to skill yourself in the newer technology. It will not take away the job. It will demand better skill. So you need to be equipped. That's why I took up the example of aircraft. Earlier aircrafts were all mechanically controlled thing, right? So probably what you needed was people who can work mechanically, with hand, nuts and bolts and fix it and all of that. When that mechanically operated aircraft moved to an electronically operated or computer-aided thing. So you're talking about most of the things happening through a computer. You need computer science engineers, but then the fundamental remain the same. For the fundamental remain same, these aeronautical engineers need to upskill themselves to understand. So short answer again, I do not think personally COVID situation has changed any landscape of job. The landscape of job opportunities for various streams of engineers are a result of technological advancement. And that is something what I kept talking about from the beginning. All of you, immaterial of the branch of engineering that you're doing, all of you should make sure that you are upskilled with whatever, so that you don't get outdated, you don't get left behind.
So the next question is that many of the students, after completing, especially the mechanical engineering students, after completing their BTech, they are getting placed in a computer engineering field. So almost 4 years they're studying the basics of the mechanical engineering. And after that, they're shifting into an entire different field, especially in the computer field. There's a change in it. So is it beneficial for a mechanical student?
What, they're working in computer science field?
Yeah, they almost majority of them are getting placed in the computer field. So what's your opinion? Is it benefit for a mechanical engineering to change?
My opinion for that, my opinion or my response to that is maybe very, very different from what you would have heard from other people. I don't think that's the right thing to do, for the simple reason. You took mechanical engineering for a reason, right? Because I know, I'll give you a small example from my family. One of my nephews who passed out of engineering, he did instrumentation. I think he passed out in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, 6 years ago. When he passed out from SRM University, Chennai, he was very clear that he's not going to sit for any IT company placement interview. So we asked him why. He said, I don't want to be a software engineer. I don't think that's my cup of tea. Very clear. I have seen many such people. I just picked up one example. So if you think you want to be a mechanical engineer, today, many of the people are accepting an offer from a Wipro or a TCS or a Infosys because they want a job. All of us need a job, correct? After engineering, we don't want to continue bothering our parents, so you want a job. So when you do not have any other option, you pick up a job that comes in your way. Now, if you're interested in it, do it. Because ultimately, you should ask a question to yourself, am I interested in computer science engineering? The answer is yes, you can. The answer is no, then even if you want to pick up a job just for the sake of it, and if you want to go back to mechanical engineering, you should make sure that you have the required skills to be in the mechanical. So is a mechanical engineer going to IT beneficial? I don't think it is beneficial, but it is beneficial to the extent that he has some job. Because I've seen many people who have worked in software industry and they did not like it. They did not like it, they couldn't enjoy it. After 3 years or 4 years, they decide, okay, I don't want to continue like this. That is going to be a difficult situation because by then you already spent 3 years. And in these 3 years, you did not do anything related to your branch of engineering, which could be mechanical, electrical, whatever. And then you want to go back to mechanical engineering field, it is going to be a little difficult. Okay, then what it means is you'll have to start from scratch again. You'll have to start as a trainee again. So what are 3 years time that you spend will be gone. And I think my fourth point to this is one of the reason it is happening is also because many of the colleges, I don't know all the colleges, many of the college, the campus recruitment happens only from IT companies. They do not do campus recruitment from, for other branches. Only IT companies can come and do, no engineering companies come and do that. So that is also kind of adding to the problem. That is where the skilling becomes very critical, because you are able to show it to the industry saying that, look, we have good quality students here. If you want to recruit us, we are available. And your placement officers, your placement directors will do the job. And we are available, but you should make sure that you are skilled enough so that when the company comes, they are happy. They go back as happy recruiters, happy employees.
Okay, sir. So the next question, since some of our students are not able to access to this Zoom meeting, they have sent me some queries through WhatsApp. Okay. So let me ask a question on that. The first question is that, sir, in the post-COVID situation, is it better to begin a new startup? Is it a better time to begin a startup or to become entrepreneur?
Is that a question? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think there is no good or bad time to be an entrepreneur. I'll tell you. I mean, when you read my profile, Udit, you said, okay, after so many years, I just want to move into my dream of doing something on my own, which happened much later. It is earlier the better. But what you need to know is, starting an own company is not an easy job, right? So you should have the support system in place. When I say support system in place, see, one thing you should all be clear about is, when you come out of engineering college, you have the college experience and exposure. When you want to work in an industry, when you want to run a company, the exposure or the experience required is slightly different. First of all, you should be aware of it. And then you should know what is that I have an approach system. For example, I am involved in one other startup based in Kerala. I basically became part of that because the 4 people who started that company are, very strong engineers. In fact, 2 of them are PhDs, other 2 are engineers, but they are all technical people. And they are not like just out of college. They've worked for about 10, 12 years. Then they started this company. I became part of that because they did not have the business exposure. So that is where I became part of it. I started helping them on the business side of things. So the question is, let me come back to the question. Is it good to start a startup after COVID situation? I think starting a startup, if you have that drive in you, pre-COVID or post-COVID doesn't matter. Now you also have to, one other thing in mind, whatever business that you start, ask a few questions. This is a completely different session where we'll have to ask multiple things. And I just give you a small thing. Ask a question as to what is that you want. Let us say you are starting a business which is going to produce some product or solution. How is this going to help what is the need? What is the problem that you solve? There has to be a problem. Let me give you Edgewacity situation alone. What is the Edgewacity doing? The problem is many young engineers are finding it very, very difficult to find a job after they complete their engineering. That's a problem. And that's a huge problem in India. And huge problem where close to 4 lakh students are struggling every year. And what is Edgewacity trying to do? We are trying to solve that problem. So similarly, whatever business that you want to do, please ask a question to yourself as to what problem are you going to solve and how big is that problem, because that decides your market. These are 2 fundamental questions you should ask. Then you should ask questions about, okay, how much time would it take for me to create this product? Do I have the technology skills and the management skills in that? If I do not have it, who do I go to? Do I have the money? There are multiple things. There are a whole lot of questions that you need to ask and find answer for. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, believe me, it purely depends on what business you want. As an example, give me one more example. How many of us did think that making a mask is going to be a huge business? I don't know how it is in Kerala. Today, if I go to any shop in Bangalore, small shop, there is no one shop which does not sell masks. Right? It's a new business. So it is a situational thing. So you need to look at what is that you're going to do. Many people, many youngsters like you came out from their college. They created that sanitizer dispenser, right? Which can be used without touching. I think many people started doing that. Recently, I was reading, I don't know which part of Kerala, somewhere in Kerala, they have built a, contactless sanitizer, UV, disinfector and all of that. And they have installed that in one of the corporation building, I don't know, Calicut or wherever. I just read about it. So it purely depends on what is that you want.
Okay, sir. There is a continuous question asked by the students that are related to the placement, sir, because there is an uncertainty in the colleges regarding the placement, sir. Because after the COVID, there is a lack of opportunities, a lack of placements are coming to the college. So, what's your opinion, sir?
No, that is precisely what I said earlier. Today, when people are looking at recruiting people, when I try to recruit people for my company, I look for people who have the skill, right? So the company should be convinced that LBS College of Engineering, I'm just taking an example. LBS College of Engineering have students who are skilled. So that when I go there, I can get some good students from there and they can work. Now, how can that happen? Either you go talk to some of these potential companies, or, your people, do the skilling yourself and then go and prove that to the company. For example, what is that we are trying to do? I mean, one of the earlier questions, how are we going to help our students in this whole environment? First of all, we go and explain this to all the industry. So industry says, okay, great. As an idea, it looks fantastic. We like it. Nice thing. If you go to our website, you will see some of the feedback from some of the senior people from aviation industry on this. Now, that is a concept. Now they have to see the quality of students. When they see the quality of students are good, they will definitely come back and recruit our people because that's what they need. So employment uncertainty, like I said, the campus recruitment could be low because they're looking for, that's what I said, they raise the bar. Maybe the bar was earlier here, they raise the bar. They want people with good skill. What you should do as students, you should focus on skilling yourself, looking at what the need of the day is. Again, giving a small example, electric vehicle. If you look at automobile, the new trend is electric vehicle. So somebody who wants to be in the automotive space, he or she should be learning more about automotive electric vehicles and related aspects. So when he goes for an interview, he's able to confidently answer those kind of questions and answers. That is what all of you should do, not just one or two, all of you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So I think almost all the questions are covered, sir.
Okay. I just saw one other question, Udit. I was looking to the Q&A. Somebody asked a question. There are many such institutes like this. How is Edgewasity different? Let me just try and answer that also.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Yeah, who raises this question? You are right. There are, because I know, especially in Kerala, there are many institutes which offer oil and gas courses. I haven't come across anybody who offers aviation aircraft maintenance course, oil and gas. There are institutes which offer that. How are we different? We are basically different in three aspects. One, our course curriculum was created by somebody who spent 36 years in this particular field. Some other institute could have that, some of them are not. I met with a few which are not, few are yes. So that is one. The second, see, as students, what is that you look at? You look at two things, correct? One, you look at, gaining knowledge. You want to learn new things. You want to skill yourself and make sure that you're ready for the industry. The second thing that you want is, okay, what kind of a certification do I get? Because when you get your first job, your employability issue is gone. Then your aim is to move from first job to the second job and second job to the third job, where your resume should look good. Your biodata should look good. So your biodata will look good when you have good certifications. So Edgewasity program certification is not done by Edgewasity. Edgewasity program certification is done by a German institute which is specialized in this particular field. So I'm talking about aircraft maintenance engineering. Our program will be certified. Program is certified by this company called ATCC, which is a European Union Air Safety Association certified training organization. Right? And if you carry that certificate and say EASA approved certificate, EASA approved organization certificate, aviation industry understand that. Similarly, for oil and gas, the certification would be done by a school called Drilling School of Selling. If any of you want to just Google it, you can just Google it and you'll see that. Its German name is very different. English name is Drilling School of Celle, CELLE. This Drilling School of Celle was set up by major oil companies, I think about 20 odd years ago, in this small place called Celle in Germany. So this was set up by all these major oil companies because those companies experienced the same problem that we are talking about today. They were not able to get a right set of talent. So they decided that they will have their own institute, which will train people who could be absorbed, who could be recruited in that company. So these are the three things how Edgewacity is different. And the fourth one, if you go to, let us say, there is an institute in Calicut. Okay, Kasaragod and Calicut is not too far from each other, right? If you have to do a program in Calicut, what you'll have to do is you'll have to go to Calicut, either stay in Calicut and do it, or you'll have to do the shuttling every day. Now, if you have to do that, can you do that while your engineering program is happening? You can't. And today, and we did not think of COVID then because we started our development 1 year ago. And today it adds to the problem. You cannot travel. I mean, there are too much of travel restrictions. Within Kerala, you can travel, but then outside Kerala, you cannot travel. We have created this program as an online program. One, you can do it at your own pace. And we expect students to do that when they are doing their engineering program, not after. Because our belief is, once you come out of your engineering college, you should be absolutely ready for the industry. You don't have to spend another 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, right? That is waste of time. So we want you to do this program while you are doing your engineering. If there are any final year students who are just waiting to write the exam, it is better to be late than never. You can do it now. So that is the reason we created this as an e-learning platform. Now, the second thing, you might have a question. I'm just anticipating this question and answering it. How can somebody teach technical subjects through e-learning? I'll give you a small example. You're all mechanical engineers. You all have seen different types of wall. If I have to ask you, have you all seen a disassembled view of a wall? I'm reasonably sure most of you will say no. Because in your lab, you don't have to disassemble a wall and look at each part. You see a wall, okay, somebody says, okay, this is a globe wall, this is a wall and whatever. So, we'll just do that. But here, we are able to provide this. We are able to provide a view of a disassembled view of a wall. So whatever that you learned as globe wall internal part, you are able to see that. So today, with all the technology available, the online education has become so good. It has become so good. It has become much better. In a wall, you can say, okay, I'll go to my lab, I'll dismantle my wall. Not all of you can do, some of you can do. But let me take a different example. When you have to learn about aircraft jet engine, okay? I think all of you know that when a jet engine is working, when a jet engine is on, you can't stand anywhere close to it. Even if you manage to stand close to that, to learn about the jet engine working, you need to understand the airflow. Can you see air? You cannot, because air is invisible. Correct? Now, in our methodology, we use animation technology to explain this. So when somebody sees the jet engine working, the entire internal working is very clear to the student. So that's what I mean. Today, technology helps you to get a lot of information which can be consumed, which can be used for people to understand things better. Which is why if you listen to many colleges, many directors, people think the way forward is going to be a blended learning. Blended learning means you will also have classrooms, you will also do online. Because there are many things that you can teach online, which you cannot do physically. I was just reading again in Kerala, I don't know which district was that. One of the schools, I think it's Malappuram district, which is close to my hometown. One of the schools, they were using augmented reality to teach students, where the teacher was able to bring an elephant or a tiger or a lion, to this and explain. Can you go closer to a tiger or a lion? You can't. Right? So today technology is so good, so advanced, we are able to make use of the technology to give a much better learning experience. So these are the 4 areas why, these are the 4 areas where Edgewacity is very different from other institutes that you are coming.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. The session was very much informative and it cleared almost all our doubts, basic doubts. And thanks to Shekharan sir for sharing your valuable time and experience with us. And I thank all the staff of Edgewacity Adversity and our college teachers for providing this opportunity to interact with such eminent personalities like you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Udit. Thanks, students. Hope it was useful for you. Anything more, feel free to reach out to us at our email ID or website. We'll be more than happy to help you with whatever information that we can. Thank you.